good evening, everybody. This is Ramesh Chandran from Biobasics, and it is our ABBA session again. This is Biobasics from Coimbatore. As you know, we are an organic food retailer working for the past 5 years and coming up 6 years actually this year. And we are into retailing over 300 odd organic products for the benefit of our consumers and also for supporting our farmers who are organic farmers, and also to make sure that Mother Nature is not taking too much of a hit in the process of us existing on the planet. So that's about Biobasics. Check us out at biobasics.org. I just realized that .org does not just mean organization; it also means organic. I didn't realize this all this while. So biobasics.org, that's where our website. It's our website, and one of the things about our us is that we emphasize a lot on consumer education, and we want consumers to be in the know of what they eat and try and eat healthy and organic. So as part of that, we've been doing huddles in the previous year, and this year we've started with these ABBA sessions, which are much more informal, but which where we make ourselves available. Devi and I, the co-founder and the founder of Biobasics, to all our consumers and people who want to talk to us, who have questions about safe food and the such and such. We do have our presence in Kochi and Bangalore. In fact, we have two partners in Bangalore, Banglore East and Banglore South. I believe they are with us today, but one of them is not. But they are also there. So, Madhu, if you want to show the slides where we have their contact information. So, if you are in Bangalore or in Kochi, feel free to reach out to their these numbers, and they'll be happy to provide you the service, the product that we have. So that's Kochi, and Bangalore South and Bangalore East. That's where we are at this point, and of course Coimbatore, where we have been for the past 5 years. So the theme for the day today is why whole foods and why not refined, right? So when we talk about organic food, we are not just talking about, we are also talking about whole foods, and it doesn't get the kind of attention that it should. So we thought we'll dedicate the next 20 minutes to talk about whole foods. So I'll request Devi to talk a little bit about that, and in 5-10 minutes, and then after that, if there are any questions, we'll take that. If not, we'll just chat about it for the next 15-20 minutes and wind up the session for the weekend. So here, Devi, for you. Yeah.
So when we say organic, and I'm sorry I had to go in between, it was us just receiving a small consignment of nice strawberry jam from our farmer group. So obviously I can say no. So the next lot has come.
So if you can see this, it says soil to what?
So
Soil to soul. It is finger licking organic strawberry jam. Buy now.
So I just went to pick up the carton. That's why I went missing. Regarding organic food versus whole food, I think it is in our mind, the whole thing has become one entity. It is not two separate things. Because from the point that we started looking at organic food, we also shifted to whole foods. So we see it as an inseparable, thing. It is not like we replace all our chemical refined foods with organic refined foods, which we think is self-defeating. So what do we mean by whole foods? Whole foods is like as less processed food as possible. So what are the distinguishing characteristics if we look at it when it comes to whole foods, and why did we move from whole foods to refined foods? If you look at it traditionally, before machines came into farm processes, almost all foods were whole foods because manual processing made it impossible to refine any kind of food. So the paddy was milled in the farm, the jaggery was made in the farm, the oil was extracted in the farm, and every item. So if you had to, including the wheat flour. So I was speaking to our wheat farmers in Madhya Pradesh, And I was asking him, what is the ideal best before date for wheat flour? So they said there is no ideal best before date, because traditionally what we used to do was we would make flour every other day or every once in 3 days. And that is the best time to have the flour freshly ground. So they made flour at home earlier, but he said, of course, now that has changed, but we have these small chuckies in the village, and we still do not grind for more than a week. Biobasics follows a tradition by grinding its wheat every week fresh. So the Whole Foods thing is that, so once the machines came in, once we wanted, long lifespan for foods, we found that refining them further gave them a better lifespan. So you had less infestation, you have less rancidity, because most natural grains have natural oils in them. And if you refine them, if you polish them fully, the bran which contains the oil is removed, which means that you can keep the grain for as long as you want without it getting infested. Whereas when it's a whole food, when it is only partly removed or not removed, it will get infested because the oil in the bran attracts insects. So refining was not something which was done for our health. It was more done for our, for convenience, for, long lifespan. Long shelf life. So be it oils, I mean, we got into sugar, refining sugar. And if you look at jaggery right now, for instance, our organic farmers are not able to make jaggery balls because it's raining here and it is not hot enough. They're not, the heat or the jaggery pulp is not forming into balls. So it is climate dependent. You having to make all these unrefined foods. And it, whereas when you have sugar processing, it goes into large mills, irrespective of the weather, you can make sugar. So similarly, milling of rice. If you mill it completely, it becomes white. There is no bran. It doesn't become, after some time, it doesn't get infested. So what happens with oils? Oils is a classic case. Earlier, even in my childhood, we used to take it to the neighboring mill. We had coconuts at home in a little four coconut trees. They would just mill the coconuts, dried coconuts that you take and give it to you. And these oils will become rancid, as is the case with cold pressed organic oils. Because when you have the modern process of oil making, it is a high heat process, and refined oils go through a 3-step process called refining, bleaching, and deodorizing. So that is RBD, as they call it. That is, the oil is refined using, mechanical and other methods. The oil is bleached so that it gets an even color. And the oil is deodorized. That is, the natural odor of the oil is taken out, or the natural scent is taken out, and artificial scent will be introduced. So the natural elements are removed, which keeps the oil from going rancid. So when people shift back to organic oils, they're surprised that after some time, the oil can get rancid if not used carefully, if it is exposed to moisture. So all these things, the closer it is to what its natural form is, it is a whole food. So in every category, salt is another case. Today we have salt, which is sodium and chloride. In the salt making process, most of the other micro minerals are removed. So because this the whole purification process of sodium and chloride also removes a lot of other nutrients, and whatever is required is artificially added. One of the experiences we had when my dad was sick, he had a sodium deficiency in his final year. My cousin's husband, who's an Ayurveda physician, said that the first thing you have to do is introduce normal rock salt or normal sea salt into his diet and stop the refined salt, because he said that would, help him not to become sodium deficient. So these are things which we are finding in our food. Then the other thing, when we have a maida or a wheat flour, again, when we remove the integral part of it, the wheat germ, and so you have just the carbohydrate, you have just the fine flour with the other elements removed, the skin, all those elements are removed from the grain. So in our case, when we say it, I mean, the same with what other thing can I think of other than the pohas? I mean, pohas is again Yeah, part of rice, and maybe the dals. Now we are encouraging people to have dals. I mean, we had earlier had dals with the skin. So when we were kids, you had urad dal split, which is what you use for idli. It had the skin. You soaked the skin, and then you washed off most of it. I mean, that was not a great thing to do, but you still had some skin which remained with the urad, which was ground. So today, what we do at home is we buy split urad with skin, just wash off the 50-60% or whatever goes off easily and grind in the rest. So our idlis or doshas have these little speckled dots because the skin has also been ground in. And this was the case till we got these large machines. So earlier the dals were split using these tirigal, what they call, those stones that you had. So you could only remove, you could only split the dals. You could never remove the skin totally. Now we have these large machines by which you can, split the skin, remove the skin without even splitting the dal. So you have all the dals which you get without skin. And, we, other than having whole pulses, we never have dals with skin. So there again, we are missing out an important ingredient. I mean, whatever minerals or nutrients that we could get from the whole dal or the skin of the dal is completely lost to us. So I guess, I mean, if I go on, I think I can just take on one example after the other. But
Yeah, the funny thing which I learned about the processing part, and this is actually, remember that it's high technology brought in. See, traditionally, it's not like technology is not used. It was used, but it is more at a low end technology. But when the
what
high
do you
end,
call intermediate?
what we call the intermediate technology, but when we started using the high technology in food is when all these things happen. So the rice became whiter, the wheat flour became softer and refined, and it became maida. And many people don't know that maida is wheat flour. They think it's some other kind of thing. And then some of these salts which we see today are, again, like I said, it comes from a factory. It doesn't come from a rock or a sea. So these things have happened with technology coming in the last 50 to 70, 80 years. But the funny thing today is that we've lost touch as consumers. We've lost touch with it. And an example I'd like to give is about the rice bran oil. So people generally they buy rice bran oil at a very high cost and then add it into their diet, just like there's a fad of olive oil now. So they add it into their diet and believe that it is nutritious. The reality is that rice bran, if consumed along with the grain itself, without polishing our rice, is rice bran going into your body as it is. So, so what we have done in the process is we have separated white rice and bran, and the miller is happy to take that because rice bran makes a lot of business sense to him, because he can take that rice bran, sell it to somebody who produces rice bran oil, which sells at a premium, and the white rice which is remaining is what normal consumers eat. So on one hand, we are making ourselves sick by eating white rice, and on the other hand, we are trying to consume rice bran oil, believing that it is healthy. So it's a conundrum in some ways. It is a paradox in some ways. It's sad, but that's how it is. If it were not sad, it would be funny. But anyway, so that's where that is. I think the other aspect which I just wanted to add, Devi, is the whole foods part actually becomes much more interesting because um, when we eat that, it becomes more, the satiation that happens when you eat is quicker, so you don't eat much of the rice or wheat or pulses or whatever, or the maida, I mean the whole wheat. Whereas you consume less and the satiation is much faster. So you try it out. If you are able to eat, let's say, one glass of rice, white rice, with one glass of red rice with bran, you will find that that one glass of red rice will last you for 2 meals, whereas this one glass of white rice without bran will hardly last you a meal. So try it out at your own home, see if you believe that. And that's, I think, what we have to say about whole food. So if there are any questions, we can take that now, or if there are any comments from anybody, Madhu, feel free to unmute people who are waiting to ask questions or not. So please,
Are we doing that?
yeah, no, please go ahead. It's fine. I mean, depending on how many questions are there, or if you have questions, Madhu, please, any backup questions that we have planted with you.
No, but I do have questions. I mean, we do talk, talk about like whole foods so much, but what if like the times when we need a snack or when it's quick and easy? How do we incorporate like whole foods and non-refined foods into those? Like, a lot of us don't have the time or the household to kind of like do whole foods all the time, right? Would you agree?
Maybe.
Oh,
Hello.
that's
That's
Mia.
Mia. Yeah, she's also interested only in whole foods. She eats
Only
only
in whole
organic,
foods.
by the way.
He eats a
All
lot
right.
of other things I'm not mentioning.
All right.
To your question, Madhu, once in a way, eating a non-whole food snack is not a sin. Just go ahead and do it if you're eating whole foods in most of your meals. So this is not being, fanatic about it, saying that we do not touch, anything which is not a whole food, and you will always find us with a carrot stick in hand. No.
That would be very brand friendly though. If you do have a carrot stick all the time.
That's true.
So that is not required. But there are quick snacks like poha is a classic case. If you just carried some poha, nati sakre, you could make a quick snack. Or a puffed rice and jaggery can make another snack. Both. And did you know that jaggery has its molasses, which means that you get iron while eating jaggery, whereas when you eat sugar, you're just giving yourself a high and nothing else.
Yeah, I personally like that aval manager that we call it in Malayalam, which is you take the poha, you soak it, not soak it, but you just wet it in a colander which drains out the water immediately, and then add jaggery and grated coconut on it, and you're
And
done. It takes less than.
And if coconut is not your thing, you can just do roasted Bengal gram. That's the other combination that you do. So you get your protein as well.
And it's filling. And if you're using red rice, poha or aval, you're getting all the nutrients you need. So I agree with Devi that we shouldn't be looking at becoming like organic fanatics here or whole food fanatics. The idea is that okay, I do like an ice cream once in a way, but I think if you're 10 out of 12 out of 12 out of 14 meals a week are decent and whole food and organic, I think you can cheat for a couple of meals. That's not a big deal there. But whenever you do want, I mean, you want to stick to those whole foods. There are many options. Our social media handles like in Instagram and Facebook will tell you more about it, and so will our website. So.
And the other thing is, what was I going to say? Completely.
I see, Kanan, you had a comment. Madhu, can you read that comment for me?
No, he says when you were explaining that red rice coconut jaggery snack, he said, yeah, that tastes similar to put.
It's the same combination.
Yeah, it's rice flour. Put is rice flour plus coconut and steamed. But this is not even steamed, right? This is yeah. So.
We have a question. Sattvic food is becoming popular now, and what is your take on Sattvic food?
We do, by and large, do follow the tenets of naturopathy and Ayurveda in our own personal life. And if you go to any Ayurveda practitioner, what they recommend is mostly Sattvic food. I mean, there is a preference towards it, and it is not. I mean, in terms of Sattvic food alone, we don't particularly look at it. But whole foods, but what suits your prakriti, what suits the season, what suits the geography that you live in, what grows during that season, definitely, if it is aligned, we do subscribe to it. Having said that, we don't particularly, be it following Sattvic food, be it following a vegan diet, be it following, a paleo diet or whatever. I mean, it's a personal preference. Like we said last time also, we are not qualified nutritionists to say that one diet is better than the other. But what we believe is whatever diet we follow, the more whole foods and less processed the food is, the more chemical free and organic the food is, it will go with any diet. And the diets are generally, based on between you and your physician or the peer group that you belong to. Anything you would like to?
No, I think from the Ayurveda perspective, you had this whole thing of sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic kind of foods. If that's what you're talking about, yeah, I think if you can identify those and limit yourself to only sattvic foods at least 10 times out of 12, 10 out of 15 meals or whatever a week, it's great. I think we recommend, my personal recommendation is it's much more involved when you look at sattvic and tamasic and rajasic categories. So a simple thing for a normal consumer to think about is to go organic and whole. And as Michael Pollan says, the key to it is Michael Pollan is a famous U.S. American food writer, and he's well known, well quoted. And he says, well, the key is to basically eat plants and not too much, mostly plants and not too much. So that's that. It's again different philosophies. You can follow any philosophy that works for you, but remember that chemicals in the regular food that we have is definitely not something that I would recommend. I would not recommend having anything which is highly refined and processed. So all the processed foods, things that come in paper, plastic, all that, in terms of actual having more than one or two ingredients, is something that I would not recommend. So that's
I would go with less than 2 ingredients. Even the jam has 3.
yeah. So I mean, okay.
I'll
So
go for a few more.
those are what I call the cheat.
No, you would say like read the labels, and if you can understand them, that's fine,
But
right? Like
yeah,
Yes.
that's fine. But even when you do things like this, soil to soul, and buy now, by the way, and when you
oh my god.
when you do that, you're going to see many, as she says, quite a few ingredients here:
No.
strawberries, lime juice, and cane sugar. So those are three things that is there in this jam bottle, which is great. But this is not what you're going to base all your 14 meals on, right? I hope you're not. So it's about maintaining that balance and trying to ensure that you're eating organic whole foods and to the maximum possible and least processed or minimally processed foods.
Oh, we do have another question. What do you recommend these millet noodles that are now quite popular as an alternative to the traditional noodles or ramen that we used to eat?
They're definitely better than the traditional noodles, I would think. Yeah, we also
When you
have
say
them.
traditional, you mean the
The
processed?
conventional processed, highly processed noodles, I would think, because they contain more of whole grains. But we also ourselves couple of times. I mean, not. I don't think once a month even we have it. Maybe once in maybe 4 months, 5 months we would have it. Yeah, but I think, like he said, you have. I mean, I would correct him. I would say it's 21 meals a week. 14 because he eats fruits, tries to eat fruits in the other 7 meals. But out of the 21 meals, if you're having cooked, grain cooked and vegetables, etc., a few meals of this is definitely better. I mean, I won't say it's a zero-sum game in terms of, either you have to go completely unprocessed, unpolished rice and nothing else, and some moong dal. I won't say that. And the other end being extremely processed food. There are different levels. I think it's personal comfort and it's a journey. So if in this journey, eating a few meals of this is what gets you closer, definitely. And it's a personal choice. I won't sit judgment on it.
I'd say that things like this millet noodles and things which are coming up now, they're definitely better, as she says. But I would, my personal recommendation is to stick to basics. So basically, saying stick to basic, ingredients and make your meals. There are tremendous amount of choices in our Indian cuisine to make wonderful dishes, and when you incorporate even the continental or other things also, there are tremendous amount of choices. So all you got to do is to try and have some kind of an inclination for eating right, and I think that's what is critical. But otherwise, stick to basics. Yeah.
Ramesh can be incredibly, routine based and
whatever works for you, whatever works for you is what I would say. But just because I know I'm saying this because I do come across a lot of people talking about organic maida, for example, or organic sugar. Well, they're not, they may be organic, they're right. It's organic, may not have any chemicals in them, but it beats the purpose. It's like it's right in letter, but not in spirit. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. Do we have any plans to open up a branch or something in Hyderabad? Kannan sir says there's a good market for organic food there.
We do deliver. So, Madhu, that's something for you to keep in mind. We do deliver, Mr. Kannan, to Hyderabad, the groceries. As of now, we haven't thought of a branch because it's quite far from here, and we have to think of vegetables and fruit supplies. So we haven't thought of it, but then people who are interested in the grocery definitely can order from us, and we do deliver. We have quite a few customers from Hyderabad.
Yeah.
Is Divya online?
I am not sure.
Okay. Fine. So we are coming to the end of this half an hour. Madhu, you recommend? Yes, thank you, Kannan, for buying online from Hyderabad. Appreciate that.
Oh yeah, he's one of them.
Yes. So please feel free to continue to do that. We are currently, like I said, like Devi said, we are not looking at Hyderabad for the fresh produce. But I'd like to say in the next 3-4 years, yeah, I think we'll be there. So, with Madhu, can we wrap up with that or?
Yeah, definitely.
So thanks everybody for joining us. Appreciate it. This is Saturday evening, so I'm sure you're all looking forward to the weekend. And for those of you who celebrate Pongal and Makar Sankranti and other festivals for the next week, please, my best wishes on behalf of BioBasics. And this is a time where people celebrate the farmers, but it's a farmers festival. And we do this all this for the sake of farmers partly, and I think we should all be wishing that the farmers do better over a period of time, and hopefully even those who are currently protesting in the national capital. I just hope that the farmers' issues are addressed by the government and by the consumers alike, and hopefully we can give them a better livelihood over a period of time. So with that, on that positive note, wish you all a happy Pongal, a happy Makar Sankranti. And this is Devi and Ramesh signing off, and Madhu will shut us off in another 5 seconds.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you everyone
thank
for
you,
joining.
everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.